how to be dateable, and how to date in this modern culture without losing yourself and losing your mind. That is the topic of today's podcast episode. I am joined by Yue and Julie, hosts of the Dateable podcast and authors of the book, How to Be Dateable. It was such an incredible conversation. These girls are so wise. They've been podcasting for the last 10 years. It started with them just sharing their dating struggles. And along the way, they both overcame their differing attachment styles and both ended up finding love. So they get really real and raw. They share their journey and they share so many incredible insights just on modern dating. I love the little categories that they have for different types of daters and different struggles that everyone faces. If you are burnt out, if you are really having a hard time right now navigating the dating waters, and I've been there and they have certainly been there, and we share a lot about our experiences, then this episode is a must listen. Hope you enjoy. Yue and Julie, welcome to You Will Be Okay. I'm so excited to have you here.
And we'll be okay. I just love that. Every time you say that, I'm like, I will be okay. Thanks for
I
having
feel
us.
good. I feel good hearing it.
I know, it's so funny. The name came from a course that I created, and I was very pregnant with my last baby, and I just wanted to finish it. I'm like, I need to get this done, and we didn't have a title. I'm like, what should we call it? What should we call it? And I'm like, the thing I say the most is "You will be okay." I'm like, let's just call it that, and then we'll change it later. But people loved it so much, we didn't change it. And then when I was coming up with a podcast name, everyone was like, just keep this. You will be okay. So people really love it.
Sometimes you just need to tell yourself that, repeatedly.
Yes. I mean, that's what I tell myself all day long. But you guys also have a wonderful podcast, Dateable, which I love that. I would love to hear a little bit about your origin story. How did you guys end up starting the podcast and becoming these relationship experts that you are?
We love our origin story because we were actually introduced by a matchmaker, not in a professional, not to date. It was just a mutual friend of ours who happens to be a matchmaker, and I was in town. I think I was living in LA at the time, but I was in town in San Francisco, and she's like, "You got to meet my friend Julie. She's putting on these events." And at the time, Julie had her startup 500 brunches. So we all met up, and Julie and I really hit it off. And it was probably, we always say it's probably the best match that this matchmaker has ever made.
Sadly, it is actually true.
Yes. But that was in 2015. And I think by the end of 2015, Julie and I both were like, we got to start talking about dating, but record it and put it out into the world. I think it's called podcasting. I don't know. We'll just try it. And we started recording episodes in my studio apartment in San Francisco. I had just moved there, and that's the origin story.
I love that. First of all, it's very impressive that you started that early.
I mean, I think it really stemmed from us just being curious. I don't think we set out to be relationship experts. At least I will speak for myself on that. I feel like if you looked at me years ago, I would never predict that I'd be in this seat right this minute, because I was that dater that turned to all the books, including your work, Sabrina. I was telling you that I was in reading your blogs and your work and your books back in the day. And I think when Yue and I met, she was new to dating in San Francisco. You could expand on this more, Yue, but a lot of the skills you knew as a dating coach in dating weren't working anymore because the dating scene had transformed so much. And then for me, I was like, cool, I had been serial dating for so long on apps before they were mainstream, because in San Francisco, tech comes first. All the apps were there in 2012. And I went through that period that a lot of people are in right now of just being like, why can't I ever get to a third date? What's wrong with me that I can never make it? And then, of course, I meet that person that I think is the one, and it doesn't end up that way. And to me, that was
story of my life too. Yeah.
And it was one of those moments though that I was like, I did it. I finally got there. I'm in a relationship. It's working. And then it was just taken away. And that was a really hard pill to swallow, that someone can really like you and want to say they want a relationship, but not have the capacity for one.
Yes. I always felt so angry in those situations, because I think in movies and media, that's not how it goes. It's the guy likes the girl. Maybe you have some silly fights and there's a little conflict. But I was always so shocked when that would happen. but we hit it off. Everything aligns. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean you don't want to be my boyfriend? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I think I kept like held on to it for a long too because of those messages. I was like, well, this is just part of the hero's journey. You know, this is part of the
Right.
whole story we're going to do. And eventually we'll be together. And that did not serve me.
I hear that. And Julie, I feel like you and I had pretty similar journeys of
Yeah, we
becoming a
did.
little too attached. But okay. And we talked about this when I was on you guys' podcast. But Yue, what was your struggle in dating? Like where
Mhm.
where was it tough for you?
Yeah, so in our book, we have a dating archetypes quiz that you can take
Oh,
even
yes.
without
We are
reading the
getting
book.
to it.
Yes, and as we're about to get into it, my archetype is the maverick, and I tested very high the maverick score. And the maverick is someone who's just super independent, who really values their space, their alone time, but gets threatened when someone does come into their space or tries
Mm.
to get to know them on a deeper level. So I was always the girl that was super entertaining on dates. I knew exactly how to entertain anybody, but I didn't know how to take it a step further, which is like deepening that relationship and getting to a level of vulnerability that would eventually felt threatening to my independence. So I would run. I was the runner.
Mm.
Anytime
Mm.
that someone wanted to be curious about how I felt or wanted to have a serious conversation, I would mask it with humor and then I would run the other direction.
So would you say you had like an avoidant attachment style, or was it kind of not as severe as that, but just a little bit more, I love my independence and I don't know, do you think it was coming from a place of fear or
Yeah.
just really, really loving that independence?
I think all avoidance comes from fear.
Oh, for sure.
It
Yeah.
is not wanting to see what is on the other side. And I was
Hmm.
so afraid of what I would reveal about myself. It wasn't even about the people I was dating. It was, I was
Mm.
not ready to reveal myself. So I think definitely
Yeah.
avoidant attachment, because what I would do is I would get attached to someone and then my next step would be avoid them, run away from them.
Yes. Okay, so I'm realizing that I'm actually both of you
Both.
guys,
Yes.
not just
Yeah.
one, because I did that. I mean, I definitely had a disorganized attachment style where I would go for guys who were emotionally unavailable and emotionally damaged, almost
Mhm.
because that's safer because you know
Yes.
Yeah.
that you're never really going to get to a
Yes.
certain point. And so it was almost like a distraction for me. It was like a project. But the guys that were healthy and emotionally available, I was just like you. I was like, I would shut down. I wouldn't let them
Mhm.
in. Like they couldn't penetrate. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I have feelings for these like nice people? Like, and that's why I really internalized this idea of like, I'm defective. Like, how am I ever going to find someone? So I definitely relate to both sides of the struggle, and we're definitely going to get more into like the archetypes. Is it
Uh-huh.
archetypes or archetypes, right?
Archetypes.
Yes. But you guys also talk about the idea that there's like a love crisis, and
Mm.
I've also heard it said that we're in a relationship recession. I actually just
Yeah.
heard that one.
Mm.
What do
Mhm.
you think's going on there? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like less people are getting into relationships, it feels like, and people are staying on this dating hamster wheel more than ever before. And in this world where we have so many options, I think at the beginning when apps came out, for instance, it was actually really positive. Oh, I can meet
Mhm.
all these people. There's so much opportunity. And then the burnout started to happen because like we were saying, no dates would go anywhere because we feel like we have this pick that we can have anyone. It's like we're shopping on Amazon for our soulmate and coming up with this like list of characteristics of every last thing we ever deemed that we wanted in a partner. And I feel like
Mhm.
we always had this vision of what we were looking for, but it never felt as tangible as it does now because you're like literally swiping for people and you can like filter down what it is you want in them. So you can get really picky if you get into that mindset. So there's
Yeah.
this feeling of just like anger almost that's come over the dating scene that we've noticed. It almost felt like during the pandemic, there was like a glimpse of hope, like maybe we'll
Mhm.
do something different this time around. And then after the pandemic, when it went back to how it was before, it almost feels like this like rage of discouragement has happened. And we think that's unfortunate, clearly, because, like
Mhm.
there's obviously a lot of good people out there that all want the same thing. And it's like, how do we funnel into finding each other?
Yes. That was so beautifully said, by the way. Like you really put
The
that so
rage
nicely.
of discouragement. Yeah.
Yes. I also wonder if, and I want to know if you guys agree. I feel like there's like some arrested development going on. I was talking to one of my mom's friends actually this weekend. She's like a grandmother, and she was telling me her kids are about 10 years older than me, that her kids got married in their early 20s. And she was like, "When did you get married?" I'm like, "I got married at 30." And she was kind of like, that seemed old to her, but I was like, "You don't understand. Like in these days, I was a child bride.
Yes.
Like
Right.
getting married.
30 is like young now. Yeah.
30 is young, but I remember, so I got married in 2015, which it seemed like when you guys started. So it seems like that was really when things were shifting. When I got married, that was when the apps were really picking up. Before that, we had the dating sites, you know, like you had to go like on a website. It wasn't on your phone. It wasn't just like swipe, swipe, swipe. You had to like log in, and like the profiles were much more intensive. But I remember back then, I felt like I was getting married late. And that is how like a lot of my friends felt. Like we felt like, oh my gosh, like 30. But now it's not that way at all. I feel like 30-year-olds are like, I'm young. I like 30 really is like the new like 20 something.
Yep.
I have so much time. But then there does come, I feel like everyone has their scary age, and you get there. And that's usually when women come to me. They're like, oh my God, like now I'm 38 and like I there's nobody in dating. I've been dating forever. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's 35 when you're technically geriatric if you're trying to get pregnant, right? So I think that when you see that label and you see all these TikTok videos of women talking about, oh, they labeled me as geriatric, I think that's what sets off the biological clock. It's like, oh shoot, I thought I was young, but now science tells me I'm old. And we've seen a lot of people actually feel that way overnight, almost like you're living your life. This is how I felt. I was like living my life, having the best time, thinking my life is awesome and everything's just going to unfold the way it's supposed to. And then one day I woke up and I was like, wait, now I'm older, and my life is so opposite of what I thought it would be.
Right.
So what do I really want?
Yeah. So it sounds like both of you guys had your unique struggles in dating. You start this podcast. What was the reception like in the beginning? Especially because you guys must have been one of the early relationship podcasts. I don't even know I was very late into listening to podcasts. I don't even think I started listening until relatively recently. What was the reception like from people who were listening?
I'm not alone. Like there was this feeling of, you know, this is happening to other people too. And this is relatable. We would always get that, like dateable, relatable. And I think there is a solstice in like understanding that we're all in this together. And while there might be a struggle, that there is a way out, and seeing like other people's stories. We've had many iterations of our podcast over the last 10 years. Like at the beginning, it started off very much like funny dating stories and things that, just were happening in the dating space. And I think at that stage of our podcast, it was necessary. It was necessary for us. It was necessary for people to just feel like they were in it with other people. But then we hit a point that we're like, well, just recapping just like bad dating behavior and things that happen isn't really helping any of us. Like it's just staying in like this negativity more. And I think our podcast has always been hopeful. It hasn't been negative, but it's easy to go there. It's very easy to go there for anyone listening and all that. So we wanted to like consciously kind of shift to more of, okay, what's happening in the dating space? Why do we date the way we do? And what can we actually do to build the love lives that we want, that don't have to necessarily look like what our parents had in other generations, and see that actually as a positive, that we have the power to design the love life what we've always wanted, and find like the relationship that's right for us, not just good on paper.
Oh, I love that. And that's such an important point. Like really taking ownership of your love life. So you're not living in that space of victimhood. Like which look, I'm not judging. I lived in that space for a long time. There's no men out there. Dating in New York City is impossible, or San Francisco, or like or in the middle America. Every city is impossible for its own reasons. And I think that what you're saying is so powerful. Because I remember when I was going through my biggest heartbreak ever back in 2005 or 6, I was in college, and there was nothing existed. And I felt so alone. And this was a few years before I started a new mode. Because to feel less alone, I remember I would watch like Sex in the City, the episode
Yeah.
where Berger dumped Carrie. And also,
Yes.
do you know what else was very therapeutic for me? I developed a real parasocial relationship with Jennifer Aniston because at the same time I was cheated on. I'm serious. It's like I
We're
cheated on
best
her.
friends. She
We
just
are-
doesn't know
she
me.
doesn't
but,
know it.
yeah.
She doesn't know it. I'm like, we are living parallel lives. Granted, I mean, for me, I was like, I'm being humiliated all over Facebook. For her, it was all over the tabloid magazines. But she had done this interview with Vanity Fair, which I still remember to this day, 20 years later, talking about her pain and how she was getting through it and how she would give herself a day to feel bad. And I just felt so connected. Like, I sound crazy, but I felt so connected because I'm like, someone feels my pain, because there really was none of that. This is pre-social media. We didn't have anything. So there is such a power in that. But I want to get to the 4 traps of modern dating, which you guys talk about in your book. So you have expectation of love on demand, settling paradox, validation trap, and relationship chicken. I love that one. Can you just briefly summarize what each of those entails and which one you think is the most common right now?
I think they're all so common. Expectation of love on demand. I think we live in this Uber culture where everything is happening fast for us and immediately. And even what you just described about Jennifer Aniston and you living parallel lives of digesting that pain. Think about it. Back in the day when you didn't have phones or all these entertainment at your fingertips, you had to live in the pain. Like, yes, you felt alone, but at least you were able to feel that sadness. Now, I don't know if people actually go through the full cycle of heartbreak anymore because they
A
can
lot
just
of them
grab their phone,
don't.
right? There's just, you just feel like, oh, if I just listen to a podcast about heartbreak or watch a show about heartbreak, it'll help me process. That is parallel to love on demand, is that we think everything can be solved for us at our fingertips, just like love. I can swipe on an app and I can find love right away. And then we get disenchanted when we don't. We think the system's broken. We think the apps are broken. We think the society is broken. Why aren't I getting what I want in the time frame that I want?
Yeah.
Because everything else is delivered to me in that way.
It makes so much sense. It's so funny. It reminds me of a client of mine who was going through a devastating breakup. I mean, she was really shattered. And we'd been working together for a while, and she was not really following my advice of what to do post-breakup. And then one week I was like, so how are you doing? She's like, I'm doing amazing. I'm like, tell me more. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how are you feeling so amazing? She's like, well, basically working nonstop, on the go all the time. I never go to my apartment. I'm never by myself. I started sleeping with this French guy. And so I'm like, do you like him? Like, is there, she's like, no, but he's really hot. And I'm like, so basically you're running from your pain and that's why you feel so incredible. And she was like, yeah, like obviously she did not feel incredible at all. She just was too scared to face the emotion. So I fully agree with you that's, and it's not our fault. Look at the world we're living in right now. You know, we're living in a world where like, if you're in an airplane and the Wi-Fi is not good, you're like angry about it. It's like in the sky and like wanting Wi-Fi. And like, those are the things that make us so like upset because if you have to wait 5 minutes for your Uber, it's not there in 2 minutes. You're like, oh, like we're just so used to getting whatever we want the second that we want it.
I'm glad you said, though, that this is the culture we're in, because I think with all of these traps, like our book is called How to Be Dateable, but we really believe everyone is inherently dateable as they are.
Of course.
And it's really this external world and the dating culture that's been built that's actually what's trapping us and getting in our way. So it's not with all these traps. It's not like something you're doing wrong. It's just like the byproduct of the culture. And what we're saying is like, you don't have to fall for this. Like, you don't have to do it this way. If you go on a date and you're not sure about someone, instead of expecting that instant spark, recognize that like it does take time to get to know someone. Maybe is a yes. Like, I'm going to keep going. So that's really what we're saying. And then like with the settling paradox is another good example. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier, how we have this like massive checklist and we feel like that we should have this perfect partner, especially if we've waited so long to get them. It's like, I need to have this person that has a graduate degree and, you know, works out every day and runs marathons. And then maybe you don't even do any of those things, but for whatever reason, you've decided this is my person. And what we end up seeing, and this is why it's a paradox, is that people get so stuck on the list, the good on paper, the chemistry, like, oh my God, I can't find this with anyone else. I need to hold hold on, but then they
Yeah.
settle for situationships or undefined
Mhm.
relationships, or even maybe it's a committed relationship, but it's not really the connection you want, but you feel like
Right.
it's like the only chance you have, the last person out there that will meet your criteria. So we really like need to take a step back of like, are we actually prioritizing the right things for a long-term relationship? A lot of the
Mhm.
assessments and evaluation we make is through a date lens of like, did I have fun with them on this date? But it's not really accounting for, am I going to build a life with this person? Like, are they going to be there when like a parent passes, or
Yeah.
we have children that are screaming and need our attention and we need to be partners to
Mhm.
co-parent? Like, we're not thinking about that stuff, and we're like, all the priorities are out of whack.
Yes, yes. I always say, like, when you're thinking about who you want to spend your life with, you have to do the stress test. And for that, I mean, picture your
Mm.
worst nightmare. For me, it is trying to catch a plane with young children. One of them vomits all over themselves. The baby has a poop explosion. Who do you want?
So romantic. Yeah.
Right? But that is life. That's what it
Yeah.
looks like. Who do you want by your side? Do you want that unreliable, selfish guy who's like, I'm not changing that. I'm not dealing with that. Like, you do that.
Right.
Or do you want the man that's like, don't worry, I got this. I'm going to
Yes.
handle it. Like, you want a partner who you can laugh about it with, who's not going to stress you out more. That's the person you want to be with. And when I remember when I started dating my husband, I all of a sudden started getting all this closure with like all these other idiots that I had been chasing after for so long. And one by one, they would like do something or something would happen. And I would realize, what? I could never spend my life with
Right.
someone like this. Like, this guy is
Yes.
so selfish. This guy is so self involved. Like, he's just a terrible person. What was I thinking? It was because you get a taste of what it is you think you need, like the
Yes.
excitement and the
Mm-hmm.
dopamine, and it feels so good. You're like, oh, this must be what it's all about. This is that feeling Taylor Swift is always singing about, right? Like, that's
Right.
what I'm latching onto. But it's not real. It's not built on anything sustainable. If anything, it's really just built on you getting high off the feeling of being chosen rather
Right.
than
Right.
actually choosing a partner who you can have something real and meaningful with.
Which is very much related to the relationship chicken trap, because
Yeah.
people say they want to get into a relationship, yet when they're dating, they do everything opposite of what they would do in a relationship. I mean, just look at the way
Mm.
we structure dates. That's not how you choose a partner. Like what you just mentioned, a stress test. No,
Yeah.
you're taking all the stress out of an environment, and then you're
Right.
choosing someone based on who you feel like you have the most spark with, or who you feel
Mhm.
like you have the most fantasy with. I mean, that it's just not the right way to choose a partner. Yet when we are saying we want to get in a relationship, we're playing all these games like, I gotta
Yeah.
wait to text back, or I'm not gonna tell this person
Ugh.
that I like them, all
Yeah.
in hopes of one day of being in an actual relationship with them where you would never have any of these thoughts or actions. It is just so odd because it's counterintuitive to go about it this way.
Yeah.
And this is where like the cool girl syndrome plays in, and a lot of stuff that is ultimately a protection mechanism.
Oh, for
With
sure.
relationship chicken, it's like you're playing a game of chicken. Like, I don't want to be the one to define the relationship first. I don't want to be the one to tell them I like them because I want to play it cool, and I don't want to be too eager and too thirsty and
Yeah.
too needy and all the stuff. And that actually falls into the last trap, is validation trap. And
Mhm.
this to me was, I think for me, one of the hardest parts. Like, you asked, like, what's the most prevalent overall? I agree that all of them are, but I actually think this one is where dating can become the most draining and
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
affect our mental health if we don't get a hold of it. And the validation trap is when we're really seeking the approval of other people so much that we've lost sight of the purpose of dating in the first place, to find the right relationship for us. We
Yeah.
take dating as a measure of our self-worth. And if someone doesn't want to go on another date with us, there's something flawed. And, like, I definitely felt this. Like I was saying, I felt like, why can't I get to the third date? Like, what's wrong with me? And then realizing, like, when we did this podcast, everyone had that
Yeah.
situation, especially if they were on dating apps. And it's not to say like, oh, it's good that everyone's experiencing it, but it
Mhm.
shows you that, like, it's just the reality is most people aren't going to be your match. And that
Right.
Yeah.
actually is a very positive thing because it allows you to find the right right person for you. But if we get so caught up into tying everything to our own value and like seeing dating as a reflection of, am I good enough and all my perceived flaws? And again, it's very easy to go here. So like if you're in the thick of it and you are having these kind of loops that go off, it's not to say that anything's wrong, but knowing that like this is actually isn't reality. It doesn't mean anything about you. And once we're able to like decouple that, I know for me it was a game changer. The last time I was dating, I got quote unquote rejected more than ever before in my life. But the way it affected me was so different. Like I was just like, okay, cool. I learned this person isn't right and I'm moving on. In the past, I would have just gone down like a bad spiral of like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, you detached. I love it.
I'm detached.
It's funny how like we take it so personally with romantic relationships, but we see the same thing in friendships. Like sometimes you meet like you guys, you met and you had an instant click. I'm sure you've met plenty of other women where she's nice, she's great, but like I don't feel like, oh, like we're meant to be best friends. Like that's just life. Some people you just gel with, you just flow with, and others you just don't. It's not personal. It doesn't mean anything. Like it doesn't mean anything. I remember when I was dating, a lot of guys like would think that I was just a little too not like too, I guess too much. Yeah. Like, I don't know. She just like is I'm like loud and I'm this, and I would always try to shrink myself to be more of like a Kate Middleton type. I'm like, I want to be like that, like very soft and very dainty. But my real self would come exploding out of it. My husband loves that about me, loves that I have a big personality. So I'm not meant to be with a guy who wants a woman who's like, and I have plenty of friends who have more of those like, more quiet, more dainty personalities. That's just how they're built. And I'm not. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It just means that everybody has what they want. All a relationship is like we all have what we want to give and what we want to get. And if what you have to give is what they want to get and what they have to give is what you want to get, then it's a match. Other than that, it's just not a match. Sometimes it's not a match, and that's okay. We have to stop taking it so personally.
Right. And this is coming from just pressure. I think that's like where the society part comes in, and just, how this is, again, things that are happening in our dating culture, and it takes active work to basically like disassociate from it. But there's just this feeling of like, if you're single, there's something wrong with you. And that's just not true. But that's where our brains go. And that's why there's such like this feeling of like, I must get all these matches. I must get all these people to go on dates with me. And we're like, you don't need a ton of matches on a dating app. You just need like enough people that you can eventually find the right person.
At the end of the day, all you need is one. You don't need endless options. If anything, that makes it harder to choose.
We're just going, I think we're going against nature in the way we date, because in nature, you have mating calls and you have specific mating calls to attract specific partners. And the stronger your mating call, the stronger your signal, the faster you're able to attract that animal that you're trying to get. I think in dating with the validation trap, we're trying to send out so many signals that it gets lost in the ether. And then your potential partners are like, was that for me? I'm not sure. Like the signal's not that clear. That call could have been for anybody. But in the way you just described it, Sabrina, when you're so strong in who you are and you are so authentic in your personality and the way you show up in the world, that's a mating call. That is a strong signal. And the person who's receptive to that is like, oh, I hear that and I want that.
Oh, I love that. That's so wise. So what would you say is a simple way to recognize when you are in a dating trap, and how do you course correct before you just self-sabotage your love life?
It's like, where do you even start? I mean, I think anything that you're doing, this actually sounds counterintuitive, but after 10 years of doing this podcast and talking to thousands of daters, we actually realize you don't need to be good at dating, which is very counterintuitive, because like you were saying, Sabrina, with a friend, you would never have these thought patterns that come in. You would never be like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me because this random girl didn't want to like hang out. You would just be like, cool, they're not for me.
Yeah.
And I think with dating, we have this like script of how it's supposed to work and like what we're supposed to follow. And that's like where like relationship chicken comes in too. It's like, I must play these like games, even if you don't think they're games. Anytime you're withholding a text, anytime you're questioning, what should I write back? that's a game. That's not you being authentic. So I think to your question of like, when do I know? It's like, if you could look and be like, is this how I'd interact with another person outside of a dating context? And the answer is no, then it's time to like course correct. Like we
Yeah.
had someone on our podcast that was saying like, she's like, well, I basically like lower my behavior because everyone else is doing that. So like, in other parts of life, like I'm the one that's setting up the meeting, I'm proactively making plans with friends,
Right.
I'm on it. But in dating, because the other person is giving me like 10%, I give them 9%. And I ghost because they ghost. And we're like, why? This is not who you are. And you're just falling into like this dating culture and like the way you think you should be. And that's not really serving you in any way.
Yeah. I feel like all of us, like millennials especially, what are the books we grew up with? The
Ugh.
Rules, Why Men Love
Yeah.
Bitches.
Those did
Like
a
it
number
was
on us. Yeah.
right. They really did. I remember from my earliest memories, just knowing that, okay, when you start dating, like you can't be too obvious. You have to pretend you don't like him, and it has to all be very sneaky. And when you learn that at such a young age, it's very hard to unlearn all of
Yes.
those things and date from a
Yes.
more authentic place for sure. Okay, now let's get into the dating archetypes, which I'm excited about, which we hinted at before, right? Okay, so in your book, you guys outline the main dating archetypes: the achiever, the dreamer, the energizer, the maverick, and the thinker. Can you just give us a quick synopsis of those? And also, like, how did you come up with these? This is like so clever. When I was reading your book, I'm like, they are so clever. I've never heard any of this like anywhere else. So first, very well done, very creative. So tell us about the archetypes.
So really, we've talked to thousands of daters since starting the podcast, and we
Unbelievable.
realize they're sort of like, we can group them. We can group people into the way they date and their attitudes towards dating, and then what are their strengths, and then what could be holding them back. So we create the archetypes as a way to highlight your superpowers in dating, like what makes you super attractive to people, and then what may be holding you back from meeting that person or having the love life you've always wanted. So we found this, these 5 categories, but you could be a little bit of each. You could be a combination of a few. I am definitely mostly maverick that we discussed earlier, which is like super independent, runs away from any threat of my independence and vulnerability. But I also have a little bit of achiever in me. And the achiever is basically someone who feels like they have to move to the next milestone, who feels validated when they do get the next date, or they are able to fulfill some sort of accomplishment in a timeline. I always felt like after 3 months of dating, there should be some like grand, like we are together now,
Right.
And then after a year of dating, maybe you should be engaged. I had all these milestones already mapped out on a timeline. And for a lot of achievers, they feel like in dating, the goal is to move to that next milestone.
Yeah. So they date from like a very agenda driven place.
Yeah. And I think the way I saw it show up in UA too is you would overstay relationships a lot. Like you would stay in them past like maybe the time that they should have run their course, because you're like, I need to stay on track and I'm not going to have the difficult conversations to really address what's going on here, because, the maverick struggles with letting people fully in and vulnerability. And then you would have this relationship that maybe should have lasted 6 months and it would be like 3 years later. And you're like, why am I still in this?
And with the achiever, I think, again, it's good to highlight there's so many strengths too. The achiever gets shit done. Like without an achiever in a relationship, you probably just stall. So the achiever is really good at moving things along and also just planning a future for this relationship. They have a vision, but what is holding them back is that this vision is not collaborative. They have this vision, they have this timeline, and you better be on my timeline. And it's so related to your book, which is like they're so attached to the outcome, and it has to be all about what they want in the outcome.
Yeah, you can't force. First of all, you can never control somebody else. Like if somebody has to also have the vision. Maybe like your timelines don't exactly match, but you have to be moving in the same direction. If you're not, you're just going to be coming up against a brick wall. And who wants to be in a relationship like that? Life is hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
And I also had very strong achiever tendencies, but mine
Mhm.
showed up differently than UA's. And this is why like there's this magic in the combo. So
Yeah.
I was the achiever dreamer. So the
Okay.
dreamer is that person that, they have so much love to give. They wear their heart on their sleeve. Like they are such a great partner to the right person. But the problem is that they aren't really discerning necessarily of who they give that love to and end up giving like the 10th chance to someone and
Right.
seeing the best in people is a good quality, but not when their actions aren't lining up. So I was like the queen of situationships before situationship was even a word. And I feel like I would have these relationships that like maybe they started off really good. Like the first couple dates were really promising and, reciprocal. And then somewhere
Mhm.
along the line, it dropped off, but I held on to that like fantasy and who I wanted this person to be. And because
Mhm.
I had this achiever tendency, I didn't want to end it because it was a
Mhm.
reflection of me. Like I
Right.
can get them to change. I can make this work. I can, move this along to a relationship. And like, spoiler alert, like that never worked out ever. You had these people that just like weren't giving it to
Mhm.
you. And honestly, like looking at it now, all of my like exes in quote, because some of them weren't real relationships, they're all still single. So it's
Oh,
like all
interesting.
of them are still single. And like I took it so personally at the time.
Right.
And now looking back on it, it's like that's just how they
That's
were
them, yeah.
wired. Like they didn't
Yeah.
want that. And I think like the dreamer achiever, you can really get stuck in these like
That's a
dead
tough combo.
ends.
Yes.
I was saying that's a really tough combo because you're optimistic and then you're also goal
Mhm.
oriented. So you
Yeah.
see the potential of what he
Yes.
could be. And then you, with your like type A
Oh,
achiever mindset,
totally.
are like, well, I just need to like help him heal this and do this. And then he's going to
Yes.
be amazing. So I can
Yes.
totally, that's a tough one to overcome. That's a tough nut to crack.
I mean, there's no mystery of why I met my partner at 37 and got
Mhm.
married at 42. So I was definitely like a later person on the
Right.
spectrum. And it's because I was with these wrong people for so long. Like, if I
Yeah.
just cut them off the second they were like, some of them outright were like, I don't want to be in a relationship. And I
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
like, I can change them.
Oh
If
yeah,
I
you're
had
like, that's
just,
what he says, but
right,
wait
Right.
till he
right.
sees
But the,
this side of me, and
right.
wait till he gets to know me better and sees what a good friend I am and what a fun, loving person I am. Oh yes, I've been there.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's like if I just cut them off earlier and look, I'm glad it all played out the way it did
Yeah.
because
All's
it
well that
led
ends well.
me to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
right person at the right
Hmm.
time. And I think that's like the underlying thing here too. It's not that you're doing something wrong, but eventually you have to take control of it. And actually, like the last time I was dating before I met my now husband, there was a guy that kind of tested me a little in this that started off like very hot and heavy. And then all of a sudden, this guy's too busy, can't make any time. The old me would have stayed trying to like get it
Mm,
back and like be like, oh, well, work's just busy. It's okay. And then the new me was like, look, I want someone that prioritizes me. And if this guy can't make like an hour, like
yeah.
Yeah.
what's the point? And I let it go. And then
Right.
I met someone right after my now husband that like I never questioned that stuff with.
I hear stories like that all the time, by the way. Like when you step into your worth and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to waste time on this nonsense anymore. It's like that's the final test almost.
Yeah.
That's the final, like when you're really stepping into, like, no, I know I'm worth so much more than this. And it comes from a genuine place. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it happen where the next relationship, that's the one, that's who they
Totally.
end
Yeah.
up with coming after, like, making that choice. So that's incredible. Okay. We also have the energizer and the thinker.
The
So
Yes.
what a
energizer is someone who's just been on like a million dates. This is like the person who brings
yeah.
the energy to dates, and people love going on dates with them because they're full of stories. They're probably like doing all kinds of fun things. They're going to all kinds of events. Like this is the person you want to be your tour guide in a city because they know
Mhm,
everything about what's going on at all times.
mhm,
But what could be holding back the energizer is that they don't have that moment to reflect, that moment to
mm,
breathe, that moment to let things just play out. So instead of giving someone like a second date, third date chance, they're like on a first day roll. They're just like, get them in, get them out. They're kind of
yeah,
like, an assembly line of these dates, and then they sit back one day and think, why has nothing worked? Well, it's because they really haven't given people the time to show who they are or let a relationship play out.
And people can feel it too. Like if you're on a date with an energizer, first of all, sometimes it's hard to go deep. It stays a little surface level if you're only going on like initial meets. But then also, like if you do have a connection and the next time they can hang out is in like 4 weeks, like it's over at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But I think actually we'll definitely give you the link and feel free to share with your folks. It's a
For
free
sure.
quiz that people could take. It's really insightful. But we actually were really shocked that our publisher for our book was the energizer.
Yeah.
Wiener in work was not that way. We thought she'd be the thinker. And she was like, no, this is how I am in dating. So when who you are in dating isn't like sometimes, yes, sure, there's qualities that overlap, but sometimes we do have different modes that come out in different life parts.
And the same as how we have different modes that come out with different people. Like I feel like with certain people, you might lean more into the achiever. Some people might activate your dreamer side.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's a spectrum.
The thinker is actually one of the most popular. I think the thinker we got when we did this quiz, looked at the results, thinker and maverick score the highest. And thinker is the one that, again, there's so many great qualities of the thinker. They can take in different perspectives. In a partnership, they can actually be great team players because, they want to learn. They want to like dive in with you and deep dive on the topic and really get to the root of what's going on and hear all the different perspectives. The challenge with the thinker, though, is you can really get into a state of analysis paralysis, overthinking every move, and sometimes not even taking action. Like we have, actually both of our partners are thinkers. And it's actually really helpful to know because I think too, when the thinker actually makes a decision, they've thought it through. So like for my partner, for instance, like it maybe took a little longer for him to be like I think on my achiever timelines, I was like ready to get engaged after like 1 to 2 years, but we actually ended up getting engaged like year 3, like 3.5 ish. And he needed that extra time. And that was because he's a thinker and he's like, I want to make sure everything is like, the right decision and I'm setting the future up and all the stuff. And by the time it actually happens though, you're like, this person is in, like they have made up their mind, like they know what they want and they're going after it. But I think the challenge with a thinker is sometimes you need to get out of your way to actually make action.
Yes. Yeah. Because overthinking can just lead you sometimes to spinning in the same circle, especially because you said that thinking and Maverick are the most popular. And the first thing that came to my head was, I wonder if it's because people are so scared of their emotions these days that they kind of just shut them off and like lean more into their cerebral side, which is also great to be able to do that as long as it's not coming at the expense of your emotions. I think what's so interesting about these archetypes is that it really just plays into the concept that a person's greatest strength is also a hint to their greatest weakness.
Definitely.
Yes. And it sounds like with both of you, like, Julie, like your dreamer and achiever side is probably like a great strength, but was also a weakness. And Yue being like the maverick and also the achiever. But you guys are now both in healthy relationships. How were you able to overcome the negative sides of your archetypes?
One way is to find a partner who really embraces all of you. My thinker boyfriend is like, I do embrace the fact that you are the one that's taking action and the fact that you have a vision in mind for our relationship. And then he's like, hold up though, let's think through a lot of the decisions that we make. And one thing with the thinker, funny enough, they love quizzes. So
that could also be why a lot of the thinkers are going up.
My boyfriend's always like, well, I'm a da-da-da-da personality type, and this is my love language, and now I have a new archetype. He's like, I know I'm a thinker archetype. So this is why it helps explain who I am. So he loves explaining where he's coming from. But I take where he's coming from, and then I go, where do we want to go? Like, I love the fact that we have more understanding of where we are today. But I know the maverick and the achiever side of me is like, where do we want to go? Like, is there an expansion of ourselves that we can take this? So I feel like we really get along in that way, that we can inspire each other in those ways, but we also trigger the fuck out of each other. I mean, it's like, I'm like, how long does it take for you to make a decision and move on it, right? And he's like, but don't rush me. I need the time. I need to really think about it. So now we create a container. We're like, okay, let's create that 20-minute container so that I don't need an immediate answer. And also, I'm not going to jump to conclusions or act on anything. Let's just let it breathe for 20 minutes.
I love that. What about you, Julie?
I mean, similar in navigating a relationship. I think I'll take the question a different direction of getting out of it to get into the relationship in the first place. And I think a big piece of it was what I kind of mentioned of taking inventory of my pattern, and that all these people that I was spending so much time on, the unavailable person, like what was that actually getting me? And I had to hit a point that I actually put myself first. I think when you might relate to this, Sabrina, when you date a slew of unavailable people, the emphasis a lot of times is so on them. Like, how do I fix them? How do I make them the person? And I had to realize, like, in a weird way, I was like running from myself by doing that. And I remember like going to therapy after I broke up with the one that I thought at the beginning that I was talking about. And it was all about him. Like, that was the whole therapy sessions were all about the breakup with him. And I had to hit to a point of like, I am the common denominator here. It's not just him. I've had this series of relationships that have a similar feel. Maybe his intensity was slightly higher, but the underlying thing here was that I was with people that were not meeting my needs. So I think getting really clear on what my needs were in the first place, and then being able to like point to them, like the prioritization example of like, this person can't make an hour, like that is a core need of mine. And if they can't do that, like, I'm okay and I'm going to move forward. And maybe also just being okay being alone. Like, I had this realization over the pandemic. I remember being like, oh my God, I'm living by myself in this pandemic and I can't see anyone. It's going to be 2 whole weeks. And of course it was like months later. But at the time it was like, oh my God, 2 weeks.
2 weeks to flatten the curve. Yeah. 1 year later.
So I had this like freak out, and then like I kind of got over it. And I'm like, if this is life on my own, like, it's not bad. Like, it's actually pretty good. Like, I have, passions that I'm excited about. I have really great friends and family that like has like a lot of love, even if it's not romantic. And, I can do this. So I think it was like that shift towards like self-worth for me. That was really the real big piece.
Okay, I want to take a little bit of credit for this because I know you were in a new mode reader, my website, and I feel like you were a perfect student. Like, that was so much of what we talked about, And while I was writing that content, I was living it too, because I wasn't there yet. I knew that that's where I needed to go, and I was like trying to get there. And that was, I mean, really, like, we have such parallel journeys. That's what it was for me also, just realizing my worth, because until you get there, you're always going to settle for people who treat you like garbage. Because like, there's a part of you that's like, oh yeah, I deserve this. Like, we don't, until you realize, no, I deserve so much more than this. You're never going to get it until you get to that place where you realize this is what I deserve.
Yes. I'm glad you said though that it doesn't happen overnight, because there was a lot of like backsliding, getting back together with this ex. Like, there was a lot of that I'm like, I think it's actually important for people to hear too, because it's not a linear journey all the time.
Yeah, not at all. That's actually the prologue of my book. I don't know if you guys read it. It's all about the backsliding after writing about relationships and being a coach for like 8 years, and this major double header backslide of like backsliding with one guy, vowing to never do it again, and then doing it with another guy. And then I was really like, okay, this is it. So like,
but sometimes that's need that, right? It's like the test of like, am I going to do this again?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Oh my gosh. I have so many more questions for you guys, but I feel like we're running out of time. Maybe let's quickly, because I also really like in your book, and I think that this is really important. You guys talk about the 7 things that really matter in deciding who to invest in. Why don't you share a few? We don't have to go through all 7, but a few that you think most people overlook that they really need to be paying attention to.
This one we cite all the time, consistency. It is
Yes.
consistency. Are they consistently showing up? Are they consistently communicating? Are they consistently showing up for you, more importantly?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
in all those situationships we've talked about, in all the fantasy relationships we've talked about, the one thing that's always true is that they're not consistent.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. 100%.
I really think like the other 6 don't even matter if the consistency
Yes.
isn't there.
Yeah.
But we'll give you one more just for fun. We have one that we call the Sunday test. And this is if you can do absolutely nothing with this person and still have a great freaking ball with them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true because life for for the most part is pretty dull. Like it's pretty
Yes.
boring. Maybe the beginning is exciting and thrilling like when you're in a relationship, but that's very temporary. That's very short-lived. So, yeah, I think that that's so true. Just somebody that you could just exist with,
Right.
that you want to
Yes.
do life with, I think is the
Right.
most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, let's conclude with some fun rapid fire questions. So
Woohoo.
I'll ask,
Okay.
and then you guys can each give the first thing that comes to your mind. What is the worst piece of dating advice you've ever heard?
Oh, be more in your feminine.
Oh God, yeah.
It's a big one these
Yes.
days.
Be more in your feminine. Be the,
Yeah.
if you bring more of the feminine energy, it gives him an opportunity to show more of his masculine energy.
Yeah.
What if you're just not that feminine? Like, let's just, like your example of being Kate Middleton. What if we're just
Yeah.
not Kate Middleton?
Yeah,
And I
we're
don't
not all
wanna
Kate
be.
Middleton.
I
What about
think
you, Julie?
It's like don't talk about career or politics or like anything that's like a kind of a triggering topic.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. It's just like it feels like you're just like holding back and
Right.
like you're curating what you're supposed to say. Sure, you don't
And
need to like
yeah.
you don't need to give like everyone the nitty gritty of your job. That's just boring. But like, don't be afraid to say what lights you up and what you do,
Yeah.
and be afraid of scaring someone off.
Right. You need to know if you're fundamentally compatible. Okay. What is the biggest green flag that people don't talk about enough? We kind of talked about it before, consistency, but you have another one that like big green flag.
I think if you are the best version of yourself around someone,
Yeah.
and like when your friends
Yeah.
meet them and they're like, "Ooh, this is good for you," because I
Yeah.
see the light in the type of friend that like comes alive.
Yeah.
The yes and of someone of how they treat you, because
Uh-huh.
as the older we get, we always think we're gonna be stuck in our ways. But if
Yeah.
you meet someone who's like, yes, I've done life this way, and I'm curious to see how you've done it and how we can mold a
Yeah.
new life together.
Yeah. I love that. What is a relationship book everyone should read? And you can say yours if you want, or a relationship book that really deeply impacted you. You can say.
I mean, obviously, How to Be Dateable and
Obviously,
Attached.
yeah.
Yes.
We'll put those out. I've read so many relationship books. Like it's crazy because when I was like this kind of later bloomer, I was like, I'll just study my way. But most of them were trash, so that's why nothing is coming to mind.
That's very achiever of you. Like, I'll just study my way to solve it.
I don't know if there's been a relationship book that has really changed the way I date. No, nothing.
Okay,
comes to
I'll
mind.
give mine. I really like Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix. Like that's the book I can think
yeah.
about that changed my like brain chemistry because it really talks about why we subconsciously are drawn to certain people. So I'll just
I
answer
like
on behalf
that.
of all
We'll
of us.
take yours.
I mean, Attached is what's coming to mind, but it's so basic.
Yes, and I don't like, and maybe you will agree with me. I don't know if you read it, but they're very mean to avoidance.
Yes,
like
they
they
are.
They are so
And-
mean to avoid it. Well, we
and
don't deserve
anxious,
love.
too.
They're
Everyone
I
I've
feel like
judgmental.
anxious. Yeah, I feel like anxious. They placate more. Like
That's true.
we need to love them, and
Right.
they treat anxious like they're like little toddlers that really need to be
Yes.
coddled. And avoidance are like, oh,
Yeah.
we don't
Murder them.
just
Yeah.
don't associate. Like, they don't deserve love, right?
Yeah.
So that's my problem. But okay, I do think that it is a good book for attachment style. If you're learning about attachment style, I mean, they were the inspiration for the name of
True.
my book, like attached, detached.
right.
Okay, I thought of mine.
Oh, yeah.
It took me a second. It's Deeper Dating by Ken Page.
I never even heard
No.
of that
Oh
one.
my God.
We love Ken
This
Page.
was because this came out in the sea of bad dating books. And it was like the one book that was like date authentically. And
Oh.
that to me was game
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, I love
and we
that.
love Ken Page.
Okay,
love that.
amazing. All right, last question. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about modern dating culture, what would it be?
Ooh, one thing.
Oh, the blame and negativity.
Yeah.
It just feels exhausting.
Yeah.
It is exhausting.
Yeah. The feeling of being a victim.
Yeah.
It's happening to them. That's happening to nobody else but them. And why is this happening to them only? Just, yeah.
Yeah.
that
I
feeling.
love that one. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. Julie, did you have something to add? I feel like
Yeah,
I
I was
cut
just
you
gonna
off.
say like the lack of magic. Like that. I
Oh,
feel like that's what's
Mm.
missing in today's
yeah.
world. Like this feeling of, oh, I'm gonna go on this date and it's like, who knows? Maybe this could be my person.
Mm.
Or, maybe like I'll meet someone really interesting or have this like, steamy hot night or whatever. And now it's like, I know I'm going to go into this date and hate this person. It's like, why are you even going in the first place?
It's not gonna work out,
know.
yeah.
I know everyone's so jaded and burnt out, and you're right. The lack of magic. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun. Now, please share where everyone can find you, where they can get your book, all the things.
Yeah, I mean, come listen to us every week. Our podcast, Dateable, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any major podcast platform. And then How to Be Dateable is our book wherever books are sold. You can also take the dating archetype quiz on howtobedateable.com and find where the book is as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
All right.
Sabrina.
Bye, guys. And thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate, review, and share it with your friends who are struggling in dating and need to hear it. And I will see you next time.